Hi everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Tax Tips channel. My name is Cherry Chen, a chartered professional accountant located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. And I'm on a mission to become the Google map for hardworking Canadians seeking financial freedom. Today, I have a very special guest here with me, a client of mine, and also a very famous client, Brittany Arneson from Investor Girl Brit. I call it Investor Girl Brit, but that is your Instagram handle, correct?
That's my brand, Investor Girl.
Yes. Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome very much to our channel too.
Oh, thanks for having me, and it's so great to be here, and so cool to have a CPA that I am so close to working with, and then also has this great channel for investors and entrepreneurs to learn from. So I really appreciate you having me on. But yeah, I've been a real estate investor for 14 years. But even before that, because my mom owned property in Canmore, Alberta, which a lot of
Oh.
Canadians, especially if they're watching, you all know Canmore or Banff. Like that's one of the most popular tourist destinations in Canada, which is beautiful. If you
Mm.
haven't been, it's a good place to go. But back when I was growing up, I was born in 1992, and in the early 90s, real estate in Canmore is not what it is today. Like it was
Mm.
dirt cheap. We didn't have street lights. It was like really cheap to buy property at that time. But my parents, my dad is actually a CPA as well in
Mhm.
Banff. Not so focused on the cross-border stuff, which is why it's so been super great to work with Cherry and her team as well. But
Thank
my
you.
dad is still out there in Banff, and my mom as well. She was working as a bookkeeper. So when she
Mm.
was working as a bookkeeper, she kept having all these clients, I guess, come through, and
Mhm.
they were paying. Somehow they were. She noticed all of the really wealthy people owned property, and they were landlords, and so that got
Mhm.
in her brain, like, oh, all the wealthiest people in town own property. But she had no experience, no background, nothing in it in that area. But she just always had it in her head it was something she wanted to do. So she got really cheap property in Canmore, built a house. But at the time, she didn't have a lot of money to actually build a house on her own. So she actually got me and my brother when we were little kids to help her with some of the renovation. I think I was like eight, and my mom's like, "Here's a paintbrush, go help me."
Oh, really?
And then we got paid $1 every Friday to help her do that. So that was a great wage for us as kids. But
That's
it taught me a
awesome.
lot. Yeah, it was great. Taught me a lot. And then bought my first house when I was 18 for $25,000. So cheap property in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, but it brought in $850 a month in rent. So I didn't
Wow.
know much about real estate, but I knew that if it was costing me 25,000 to buy the house and 850 reoccurring rent, I'm like, well, I could pay this off in a few years. That makes sense. But from
Yeah.
there, yeah, started doing all the work myself and started this little Instagram account, which I never expected what it would be today. But that has really helped me as well, building this personal brand and helping other investors get to where they want to go. But things have changed a lot from there till now. But
I know. I heard that people have known you for being the girl, especially Canadian girl, that actually lift the hammer and doing all the actual work and renovation work.
I know people see me now and they probably wouldn't expect that I've been in construction for 10 years and doing all that work. And I did everything. I would learn how to demo the property, like completely gut these houses. And I was buying these little houses all across Saskatchewan, in Canada, and then just going out there, living in my van, working on the properties, just making it a livable place because a lot of the places I was buying were pretty disgusting. So taking them all apart, had my tool belt, I would rip it all apart, then rebuild everything. I learned how to tile, do flooring, painting, like the whole thing. So it was a great learning experience, but in doing that, it was cool because I did build this brand. I was taking videos of all the renovation process, teaching people how to do the same, teaching people the power of real estate investing, and eventually building
Mm.
up that passive income so I could get out of my 9 to 5 job, which was the ultimate goal.
What did you go to school for?
I actually went to school for power engineering, which is actually a 6-month program, which is nice because I took that 6-month program to become a power engineer. And then I worked as a power engineer for 6 months and I hated it. Like I couldn't, it was so boring because you're just on call. So I was
Yeah.
just sitting around waiting for a problem to happen at the plant I was working at. And then when a problem happened, I'd have to go fix the machinery. That was kind of what the job entailed, but it was a lot of just being bored and sitting around. So I did that job for 6 months. And then I went to a real estate conference and I just got so much confidence after that that I could actually be a real estate investor and do that full time. Before it felt really far out of reach. I thought I'd have to work as a power engineer for, you know, at least 10, 20 years and then eventually like have enough properties to retire. But it ended up happening way faster than that.
I mean, now you're a different person. I mean, I don't even know physically where you're located because last time we chat, I think you were in Miami or in Belize. I'm not 100% sure. So tell us a little bit of your journey from, I mean, lifting the hammer and getting the whole place and renovating and putting everything together and documenting your journey and what happened after that and what it led to.
Mhm. Well, that doing that and something I never would have expected is this personal brand and building
Mm,
that because and I had a mentor way back, I think I was 24, at the first real estate conference I went to, and he said, "You're a young investor." I already had 3 properties, I think, at that time. He said,
mm,
"Eventually, you're going to run out of capital. You're going to want to do big projects, but you're going to need a network. You're going to need people to invest with you in these projects. And it's what you should do is start some sort of newsletter, sort of something." And I ended up starting my Instagram account, which led
mm,
to a ton of opportunities. So I built my single family home portfolio up to 13 rental properties. And I had a few
mhm.
Airbnbs in there. And at that time, I was just working myself to the ground though, because I got
Yeah.
into real estate for freedom and to be able to travel and take care of my family and all of that stuff. But then it ended up being that I built myself this big job that I couldn't escape from. Because if I wasn't physically working on my properties or doing the property management, like I was doing bookkeeping, which I should
Oh.
never touch any of that, but I was
Mhm.
doing everything myself. And what ended up happening was just I felt pretty trapped, but I also didn't believe in myself that I would be able to take on bigger deals, get into, I was thinking of doing multifamily or, now I'm in storage and hotels, which we'll get into in a bit, but I just didn't believe in myself that I was able to actually do it. So I say it's stuck in that place for a long time, but I knew I needed some sort of change. I knew what I was doing
Yeah.
wasn't very sustainable. But what happened is I got invited on a podcast called Bigger Pockets. And
Yep.
after that podcast, I really grew my network in the investing community. And that is so, so powerful. And I didn't think much of it before. I'm like, I'm just going to work. I'm going to buy these properties and then I'm going to go retire on the beach at some point in my life. But
Mm,
so many opportunities and came through being on this podcast. I got invited to a mastermind with 20 other investors, which some of them had hundreds of millions of dollars in their real estate portfolio. But what I realized what was different about what I was doing is they all had teams, they all had partners, they were doing things not all on their own. So that's when I had a huge mind shift and I started thinking about my real estate investing as a business instead of just
mm.
buying rental properties. That was a huge pivot point for me.
Wow. So like from there, you took action then. And what's your first, I guess right now you're all across, you're not just local anymore, or like primarily our audience are Canadians, and we have some people from the US and we have other audience as well. But primarily we're in Canada and you're no longer just within Canada because you're everywhere.
Yeah, so through that, actually that mastermind, I met my business partner in all of my
Mm,
self-storage deals.
mm,
So through meeting these people, I realized I had so much power in the brand that I built over time.
mhm,
So I ended up partnering with AJ Osborne in the self-storage business. We bought 10 self-storage facilities together all out throughout the US and
Hmm.
syndicated all of those deals. So I was on the team raising capital, doing marketing, all of that stuff. But it was great because I could use my best skill set, and then everyone else on the team could use their best skill sets to get these really big deals done. And then I also have a property in Belize, which is a hotel, which is really
Hmm.
cool too. So I'm all throughout the US and then also in Central America as well. So it's possible for all the Canadians thinking like you have to be stuck there. You don't have to. And I think it just depends on who you are, what your ultimate goals are, and then what opportunities do you have. I had this amazing opportunity to partner with someone in the US, and there's lots of opportunity for that for anyone in Canada if that's a direction that you're thinking of going. And then you could also do it on your own too. But I think people get I never thought I'd get out of, or I never thought I'd invest out of Canada. I just really thought I would build my portfolio in Canada and kind of stay there. But when the opportunity presented itself, it was too good not to go after it.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your storage unit investment and also your hotel later on? But how are the numbers work out? And they are big deals. They are not just single family homes, so they are no longer obviously now it's no longer $25,000 a pop. It's hundreds of thousands, but still compared to a single family home, they're a much bigger deal. And how do you manage that? Because it's also very scary to majority of the people.
Yeah, it's true. And I think the big difference with self-storage investing and how I did it, because I went into a partnership with someone who's been doing it for 20 years. So it didn't
Mm,
feel scary to me because I had somebody on my team who was able to, get to acquire the deals, to manage the deals, all of this. But I really want people to get out of their heads with these deals are too big and too scary, because there are markets where you can find self-storage facilities for the same price as a duplex. So if you really think about it, the numbers in commercial real estate make a lot of sense because you are buying a business, not
mm,
just the real estate, right? So you're buying a business and you just really need to understand a few key things. So with storage, you can buy a facility, same price as a duplex, but then you have a ton of revenue, different revenue streams as well, because you could be selling insurance, you could be selling locks and boxes and all of this extra stuff. Same with hotels
mm,
as well. That's another asset that I really like to invest in. But I think with storage, it's just something that feels scary and far away for a lot of people, but you can still get, especially if you're someone in Canada who's maybe in a big market like Toronto or
yeah.
Vancouver, and a price for a single family home is $1 million. Like, you could get a storage facility in Saskatchewan for the same price and then be making a lot more in cash flow. So that's just something to consider. Just really the biggest thing I think about it is making a decision, deciding you want to do it, and then go all
Mm,
in. So it really depends though, because you can do your, smaller. The first deal I ever got under contract, and I could try to remember the numbers as well on it. It was 750,000, I think, purchase price. And
oh,
I
wow.
think I got it, I think it was an 8 cap. So if we can backwards the math on that. um, I think it
The
was,
net operating income,
yeah. So for what the net operating income, just to give people an idea.
60 grand.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that sounds
Yeah, that's
right.
pretty good number. Really good number.
Yeah, and it's that was the first cold call I ever made, was it was in a smaller center. So this is what I did with
Mm,
my single family homes as well.
yeah.
So really an important thing with storage is you do have to understand supply and demand. But if the
Yeah.
demand is there, there's a lot of things you could do on the marketing side, on, handing out flyers, having a website, like really basic things that you could change to actually get
Mm,
people's attention and bring customers into the door. But there are deals out there for reasonable prices if you're willing to get out there and put in the work. And then if you do want to take on the big deal, like I remember the first time I heard my business partner talk on a podcast, and he did a conversion project, and they
Mm.
made $13 million on one property. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
Like, I'm in the wrong game. I'm buying these $25,000 houses. I need to get into some bigger stuff. So it's a little bit higher risk, and I think you work your way up to that point, but there's just way more opportunity once you can get over the hurdle, which is usually our own brains that stop us from wanting to expand and do bigger things.
So was your, if you don't mind me asking, was your first $750,000 storage unit purchase, was it in Canada or was it in the US?
That's Canada.
Mm.
So that deal, I actually ended up falling through on that deal because it was a personal story, but I was going through a breakup at the same time. So it was
Mm.
like, I got the deal under contract. I was excited about it. At the same time, though, I was also buying a multifamily project and then doing just a lot of things changed in my life. So I had that deal and I was going to go through with it. But with all the circumstances happening, I just couldn't take it all on. It felt like too much. But that one was in Canada, in Saskatchewan. But then afterwards is when, after I got that deal and I was
Mm.
ready to go through, like I did all the learning, I did everything I needed to get that deal. But then it made the most sense to partner with AJ, who's my storage partner in the US. So I went in that direction instead. But I like to tell the story of that Canadian deal just to show Canadians that there are deals out there and it is possible within Canada as well as there's opportunity in the US as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But those are great numbers. 750 with $60,000 rent, and there is no landlord tenant board in Ontario. We're always fighting against landlord tenant board, the government regulations, and so this is a huge thing. I'm sure BC is the same way as well. So we're all suffering from the same, I guess, government interference, and not very happy about it.
Yeah, it's tough. But
Yeah.
that is why I really like even like the Airbnb markets. I don't know exactly what's going on there in your market with that, but I know a lot of different places, even in actually Saskatoon, they started changing all the rules and having
Yes.
to, it sucks when it's out of your control, but there are asset classes where it does put a little bit more control into your hands. So that's usually the way that I like to go.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now you're in multiple storage unit project as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, tell us a little bit about your Belize property, because I know that you just got into it maybe a couple years ago. It was a newer project in your portfolio.
Yeah, so storage, I love storage. It's like black and white. Here's the numbers. Here's your net operating income. You can increase it by doing these few things like, like I was saying, the marketing, the website, running systems, technology, and then your valuation goes way up. Like you could double
Mm.
your evaluation by just increasing the net operating income, where single family homes, it doesn't work that way. So
Mm.
self-storage was the direction I really wanted to go in. And that I still am. I love that asset class, but I just expected to really go down only that path. And then my SEC attorney, who works with me on my syndication deals,
Mm.
she brought a deal to me. We were hosting a commercial real estate conference in Idaho, but she
Mm.
was there and she said, Britt, I found this incredible hotel in Belize. Do you want to invest in it with me and be a partner on the deal? And I was like, no. Not at all. I didn't want to I'm like, I don't want to get in hotels. That sounds way too, like, I just didn't,
Intense, hands-on.
too much. I was like, that
Yeah.
just, I like storage. It's like, to me, I wrap my head around it. I'm really excited about it. Like, storage is my lane. But then as I started learning about this property, she invited me out to go look. And I'm like, well,
Mm.
may as well, it could be a really cool opportunity. So I went out there and I completely fell in love with this deal. I was like, that it is so beautiful. We host masterminds and do retreats as well. So this was a cool opportunity to actually own a hotel and then also host masterminds and retreats and all of that at the property. So when I was there, I just completely fell in love. We have a restaurant as well on the property, and we
Mm.
are number one on TripAdvisor for the restaurant and the hotel in all of
Wow.
Central America. So and that was for this year. So it's been just an incredible project. I love design. That's kind of my background in the DIY,
Mm,
the renovations and all of that. So when I got to the property, I just saw so much potential. The property it's beachfront, and we have a
mm,
block of 6 rooms right on the front of the beach there. And we have the bar and everything, the pool. But then in the back, there's a whole bunch of land where currently when we bought the place, it had 6 tree houses. And then we are expanding, building 6 more tree houses. So that's was a really cool project that I was excited about, that I wanted to take on. And the hotel industry at first was not at all something I wanted to get into. But once I started to understand it and what my
mm.
skill set is, I love the marketing side of it. I love getting people to where we want them to go. And you can do that in storage, but still it's more fun
It's
on
not the
the
same.
hotel
Yeah.
side. So understanding the
Yeah.
business and the opportunity that there is in hotels right now with this huge, even in all commercial real estate, there's this huge transfer of wealth happening from the baby boomer generation that owns a lot of these small boutique hotels or storage facilities, where they're going to be retiring. They're going to be wanting to get out of these businesses, and that's a perfect time right now for us to be picking them up. So that's really a cool
Exciting.
opportunity that I'm excited about.
Wow, that's what a journey. I mean, you were born 92, so you're still fairly young. So I mean, in the last 15 years, would you say 15 years that you've transformed yourself from doing all the renovation yourself to multi-project into storage, international investor?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
When I
Or
talk to, sorry, go ahead.
did you have a question? Or maybe I missed.
No. It was just amazing.
Oh, well, I thank you. I appreciate that. It's been quite a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. So if there is anything that one thing that you want to leave to our audience, because you're young and you're successful, like how do you get from, you know, going on that 6 month contract as some sort of an engineer supporting the machinery,
Yeah.
waiting for things to happen to you, to where you are? One thing that you want to leave, maybe Canadian, majority of our clients and also audience are Canadians. What's the one thing that they could do today and make a difference in their investment journey or creating wealth journey?
I think it's so important to really understand it's all in our heads that's holding us back. I used
Mm,
to say to myself, I wasn't smart enough. I'm not a leader. I never wanted a team. I felt uncomfortable speaking, doing podcasts, all of this stuff. But it was all just this story that I was telling myself in my head. And once I broke through that and realized that a lot of that stuff is just absolutely not true, and it's just this fear that's actually holding us back. Once you can understand that, you are capable of so much more than you would ever imagine. And I just know that from my experience, where I was just telling the story. I told one of my mentors that, back when I was in my single family days, I said I'd be DIYing forever. I would never change. I would just be doing that and working on my homes, renovating day in, day out. And then once I let go of all that, I was able to scale and accomplish so much more, but really digging deep into ourselves and understanding what really it is holding us back, because usually it's not exactly what we think it is.
that is a great tip because I'm also working through that myself as well. Like, hey, like I'm not just an accountant. I could be a lot more than just an accountant. But that there's that identity thing. So it is something that, yeah, like we all need to grow up and recognize it and then acknowledge it and then move forward from there.
It's true. And getting around others that can see that in each other, that
Yeah.
is the best thing that I ever did. Because when I went to that mastermind, it was like that changed my whole life, because I saw this different path. But it is having that support system is really nice and important as well.
Well, thank you so much, Brittany. I am so grateful that you are here sharing your wisdom with us today. If people want to find you, the best way to reach you or learn more about your journey or your project would be on Instagram.
Yeah. Instagram at Investor Girl Brit. I'm on all the other platforms too, but I spend the most time on that one.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic to have you. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you.